How many times we have asked ourselves which gem is actually better, the March size gem or the health gem? Now, beautiful people, don't get intimidated when you're gonna see me using red gems, because this video will gonna provide you with a formula and a method which will allow you to calculate exactly which gem between the March size and health it's better, even if you want to apply this on white gems. And applying this formula on all 12 steps, you're gonna see there is one case in which the difference is absolutely super small, but there's also gonna be one or two cases in which the difference is literally getting 2 times more benefits if you are using the correct gem, either health or March size. Because when you ask around, there are a lot of players saying, in general, health is better. Then there are other players saying, yeah, also in general, March size is better. And not just because they are using words like better. To answer this question, when I look at my gems, you have different values. So fear not, beautiful people, Timmy is here, and I strongly recommend you to watch this video till the end in order to see the formula, to understand and see how I apply this formula in order to tune my pikeman setup to its max performance when it comes down to health or March size gems using the gems I have. And apropos tuning, we have to mention this channel's sponsor, which is Eneba, a website offering you a discount between 10% and sometimes up to 30%, beautiful people. All you have to do is just use the link which you see now on the screen or in the video description, log in and do your purchases and get more from your money, while at the same time you're supporting a channel which I think is definitely unique and super worth to be supported. So thank you very much for that. And before we start with this calculation, step by step, let me give you a very simplified but very understandable explanation on how does HP and March size actually works in Age of Empires Mobile. Because when you see your March on the battlefield, all you see is this number, representing the amount of troops which you have in your March. But in order for the system to display you this number, it has to do a couple of other calculations in the background and display your March size using these numbers of the total amount of troops which are in your March. But in reality, your March is actually one huge health bar. And I can give you the exact value for my March. That's 46,870,893 health points. So follow my steps to see your value. So let's start at the beginning and do it just like me, step by step. The first thing what you're gonna do, you're gonna have to take your March which you wanna calibrate. In this case, it's gonna be my pikeman. And what you're gonna do is remove the health or the March side gems from all 3 heroes. So in this case, you see on Cyrus Helm, there are no gems. And also on the boots, there's one more slot in which you can add HP or March size, and do the same for your second hero. In this case is Boudica, no gems on the helm and missing 1 gem on the boots. And of course, do the same for your third hero. In my case here, Mansa Musa has no gems on the helm and 1 gem missing on the boots. And for this calculation, you will gonna need 2 numbers which are different than mine. Because the third number, which we all gonna use, it's a number equal for every single player in Age of Empires Mobile, which is the base value of the health of each tier 7 units. Now you have to pay attention that the tier 6 has far lower health. So in this case, if you look at the archers, they have 146 points health. This is a fixed value on which your extra health of the stats will gonna apply. We can also open the pikemans, press the train, press this button over here and see again the same value, 146 points for every single tier 7 unit. And now to the other 2 numbers. And again, don't forget to remove all health and March size gems from the 3 heroes and just attack a tribe. And we're gonna take that battle report to find the last 2 missing numbers. The first number is gonna be your March size, which obviously is gonna be different than mine. And the second number, you're gonna find it when you press on the buffs. That's exactly this number over here. The extra health which your account has. taking into consideration all your upgrades. So in my case is 107.1. And now let's start with the first calculation. You're gonna start with your commander to see which of these gems are available for you of this type, either health or march size. And keep following the process and add the value of the gems which you have. Maybe you just have a yellow march size. That's gonna be a 500. Good. So in this case, I can choose between 3.5% extra health or 1,150 units. Which of these two gems will gonna give me the most? So let's do the calculation. And first we wanna see what's your total march health without having any gems of march size or health type. And that value is your march size. In my case is 137,150. Insert your number here. We're going to multiply this with 146, which is the fixed value for every single player in Age of Empires Mobile for a tier 7 unit. And we multiply this with 1 plus your health stats buff. So in my case is 107.01. And now we see that my base march health right now with no gems on is roughly around 41,460,000. And let's take the case number 1, in which I could add a gem of 1,150 extra troops. In your case, your gem probably is going to be lower, so add that number there. And let's calculate how the entire health of the march will now going to look like. Because that is your march size plus this value of the gem, in my case is 1,150, multiply this with 146 and with the 1 plus H stats. And you see now the total value of the health of my entire march jumping from 41.460 million to 41.830 million. Or in other words, I have gained 307,889 points of health. Good. Case number 2. What happens if I would add a 3.5% health gem? In your case, your gem probably going to have a lower value, so add that here. So we calculate again the total health by multiplying your march size with the base value, health of tier 7 units, and we multiply this with 1 plus your health buff from your stats right now. In my case is 107.01, so you write it like this, plus add, in my case, 0.035 extra health. And the result is that I will gonna get 698,388 extra health for the entire march. And if we compare this with the case number 1, in which I'm adding a gem with a march size, then it's obviously that if I add a 3.5% extra health buff, my benefits will gonna be almost double. So let's do that. So you go on your commander and add whichever gem the calculation told you is better. In my case is 3.5 health. Now I strongly advise you to do the same for every single gem, because the values of your march will gonna change with every step. So either a higher march size depending on your alternative or a higher HP stats. So in my case now the alternative is a 3.5% health gem or a 1,150 extra units for the slot number 2. Don't forget to hit a tribe to get the fresh stats, as my stats actually change in this case. Now I have 110.6% extra health. So let's apply the formula. And let's check the first case, in which I could put a gem with a march size. In my case, this is 1,150 extra units. In your case, probably it's going to be a different number. And applying this formula, it shows me that I will gain 370,523 points, extra health points for the entire march. And let's check case number 2, in which I could put a health gem, in my case with a value of extra 3.5%. And applying this formula is going to tell me that I will going to have a gain of 700,167 extra HP for the entire march. And it's super obvious that the formula recommends me to actually equip this extra health buff gem. The difference is fast double. So let's jump in the game and do that. So here we are on my commander. Let's equip that gem like this. Good. Now for the third gem, I will gonna have the alternative between, again, the same march capacity gem value, because I haven't used it yet, but now I have just 2.3% extra health. So which one is better? First the fresh stats, then you can see that my health buff went up, the march size remained the same. So let's do the math. Already at this step, you're gonna notice a difference. So case number one, if I were to add this extra march size with this specific value, 1150, in my case, it's gonna give me an extra 370,053 points extra health for the entire march. But if I were to apply an extra health gem, in this case the value is 2.3%, that's gonna give me 456,090 points extra health for the entire march. So you see, the values slowly come closer. And of course, let's jump into the game and add this gem with extra 2.3% health on my commander. So now we are adding the third gem. In this case, the formula recommended me 2.3% extra health. So let's do that. But the commander actually has another slot on which you can equip either health or march size. So let's do the math for that too. And the alternatives are again the same. March size 1150 or health 2.3%. And of course, we need the fresh stats. So now the difference is my health went up to 116.4% extra health. So let's do the math. So let's jump directly to the case 1 and case 2 for the fourth gem. If I were to put 1150 extra march size gem, then applying the formula is showing me that I'm gaining 370,199 extra health for my entire march. And if I were to use as a fourth gem this extra health one, the value is 2.3%, then the total gain will be 455,159 points. So again, there is a noticeable difference. Therefore, the formula tells me to equip this extra 2.3% health. So let's do that. So here we are on my commander. We go to the boots and we're going to put that extra 2.3% health. And we are done with our commander, but we still have to do the other two heroes. So now let's do this for the second hero. And in my case, I still have 6 unit capacity of 1150 and only 3 gems of 2.3% health. And of course, curious to see how the value will gonna look like once I'm reaching the alternative of just 1.3% health. Obviously, first check the new values depending on what the formula told you to equip. In my case, yeah, the health stats have changed and now they are at 118.7% health. So let's apply the formula. And again, we are going directly to case 1 and case 2. And by looking at the results, I gained 459,600 points extra health for the entire march, which is a far higher value than what I could have obtained equipping the march size gem. Therefore, let's jump into the game, equip this gem and carry on. So here we are on my second hero. In my case, this is Boudica. We go on the helm and we're gonna equip that 2.3% extra health. Like this. Good. For the second gem, the alternative will gonna be, again, 2.3% extra health. Just 2 gems left with this value. Or I still have 6 gems for march size 1150. And obviously, don't forget to check again your updated stats. In my case, now I'm at 121% extra health buff. So let's run the numbers. And we jump directly to the calculation of case 1 and case 2. You see the values on the screen. And the short version is, if I were to use the extra 2.3% extra health gem, then I'm going to have a gain of 488,530 extra health for my entire march, which is again a higher value if I were to use the march size gem. So let's do that. So back on Boudica, back on the helm, second gem, 2.3% extra health. Good. For the third gem, I have one last extra 2.3% health and still 6 gems with march capacity. Don't forget, we have fresh stats. So now I am at 123.3% extra health. So let's run the numbers. So very fast, case number 1 and case number 2. And the formula shows me that if I equip now the 2.3% health gem again, I'm going to have a total gain of 491,670 points extra health for the entire march, which again is a higher value if I were to equip the gem with extra march size. So let's do that. And we are back on Boudica, back on the helm. This is the third gem, and this is the 2.3% extra health. Good. And now for the boots. Maybe it's going to be interesting because the alternatives now are again gems with 1150 March capacity, but I no longer have 2.3% health gem, just 1.53. So which one is better? First, we have to check the new stats, and here we see that my health now is at 125.6%. So let's apply the formula. And we jump directly to case number 1 and case number 2. And yeah, that's exactly the moment in which the difference is extremely small. Between a gem with a March size of 1150 extra units, in my case, and a 1.53% extra health. And the highest overall gain, it's still if I were to equip this 1.53% extra health, but the difference, it's extremely small, just roughly around 1000 extra health for the entire March. Super small difference, but yet better. So therefore, let's equip this gem, which is actually the fourth one for the second hero. So we are almost done. This is 1.53 extra health. So let's do that. We are done with the second hero. All is left is the last hero. And we have to decide which of these gems, health or March capacity, will be the 4 best gems, because the formula still hasn't recommended me to use a March size with this very high value, and I'm left with 3 health gems of 1.53%. So first we have to take a look at the new stats, and here we see that my health buff is now at 127.2%. So let's run the numbers. So let's look again at the case 1 and case 2. Case 1 is with the extra March size. Case 2 is with an extra 1.53% extra health. And applying this formula in both cases shows me that the highest gain I can get is 371,815 points if I use the 1.53% health. But what you also see, the difference, it's very small between case 1 and case 2, roughly around 1000 extra health for the entire March. So let's do that. And that is the first gem for Mansa Musa. So let's put that, 1.53 extra health, and run the numbers again to see which will be the second gem. But first we have to have a look at the fresh stats. So here is the comparison. And now we are at 128.7 extra health. And when we have a look at the case 1 and case 2, again, the difference now seems to be slightly higher between 1.53% extra health gem or 1,150 extra troops. It's roughly around 17,000 extra overall HP points for my entire March if I were to equip this 1.3% extra health. So let's do that. So let's equip it and carry on to the third gem, while having only one gem left with 1.53% extra health. But of course, first, let's have a look at the fresh stats. And now I am at 130.2% extra health. So let's run the numbers. And that's exactly the reason why you have to do this step by step, because when we have a look again at case 1 and case 2, this time, equipping the extra March size, in this case with this value for me, 1,150, will actually going to give me the highest gain possible. In this case, 370,492 extra health for the entire March. And the difference is round about 60,000. So let's equip now the first March size gem. And we are on Mansa Musa. For the third gem, the formula tells me add the March size with this value. So let's do that. And now we have to decide for the last gem, either a March size or 1.3% extra health. Obviously, first we have to look at the fresh stats, because for the first time my March size actually also changed. So now it's 130,300, while the health buff remained the same. So let's run the formula one last time. And again, when we have a look at both cases, I'm gaining the most if I'm going to use again a March size gem at this specific value, as I will going to get 370,515 extra health for my entire March. And the difference is around 67,000 more points. So let's do that. And that's the fourth gem on Mansa Musa. And it's going to be a March size gem, just like this. So beautiful people, now we are done with aligning the gems in the most efficient way possible, applying this formula. For each of these steps, total of 12 because you can put maximum 12 gems of health or March size on a March with 3 heroes. And now we need a couple of very important remarks in order to close this topic. So first of all, was the video very long? Absolutely yes. It took me around about 20 hours to produce this video. But was this length actually necessary? And the answer is again, absolutely yes. Now regarding this formula, in order to cut some corners to be even faster, all you have to do is just simply take a screenshot and copy this formula in ChatGPT and add your values, because it's more than capable to run the numbers very fast for you. But you still have to do it step by step, just like you've seen in this video. Always get the fresh stats and add the new values, also the values of the gems which are an alternative for you at that point, no matter what color they have, because numbers are numbers. So beautiful people, now it's your turn. Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Share this channel with your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna catch you in the next awesome episode. Ciao, ciao, ciao.